Narratives, your weekly dose of hot takes, plot twists, and unfiltered book talk with your favorite romance-obsessed besties, Maddie and Kyla. Hey, book babes, you're listening. All right. That time, I tried. I paused it, and then it still started again.
It's fine. It's fine. We tried.
I am not a professional.
We are doing our best.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Well, hello.
Yes, welcome. Episode 6.
Yes.
We had to do the math on this several times today because we couldn't remember. But yes, episode 6. We read a young adult novel this time.
Mm-hmm.
Dark and Shallow Lies.
I personally loved it.
Me too. Me too. If you follow me on TikTok, you already know that I loved it because I couldn't even wait.
Yeah, you finished this one fast.
I have a problem. I'm a sit down and read the book cover to cover in one shot. I can't not. So I haven't even started our next book because of that, because I'm like, I have to have the time to sit down and read it cover to cover.
That is fair. Mine has not come yet. It was supposed to come today. It did not end up getting delivered.
Rude.
I know. It's en route for tomorrow. It's fine.
Get it together, Jeff Bezos.
Jeez. My $9.63 wasn't enough for you?
Yeah, if anybody wonders, we buy every single book. There, none of them come to us for free.
Yeah, no.
Nor will they ever. I mean, I guess if you send us a book, maybe but for the most part, we are gonna buy them. So
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I definitely rated this one 5 stars.
Yeah, I did as well. I loved this one. It had my skin crawling the entire time in the best way. So
it was so good. It was a thriller, and I find them usually predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Not this one. I never knew where we were going with this one, and I love that.
No, I thought I was so spot on so many different times. I was like, whatever. Kyla's lying to me. I'm going to figure it out. No, I was wrong. Dead wrong.
Every text message, that one that you sent me at like 11 o'clock at night, and you were like, it's going to be Heart. And I was like, she has no fucking clue. And I was just like, I'm just going to keep writing. Like,
there are little notes all the way through my book, too, if you were to look through it, that are like, see? All signs point to Heart. And then it's like, see another trigger pointing to Heart. And it's like, right here, I know it's freaking Heart.
It got me good. It got me good. So, I can't even, this is terrible, but I can't even remember the main character's name.
Gray.
That's why I couldn't remember her name. Because it's Gray. Not that it's a bad name, it works. It's just, that explains why I can't remember it.
No, I actually really like that name.
Yeah, no, it's a great name. There's nothing wrong with the name. I'm just dumb.
No, she even talks about that in the book, how she doesn't really like her name.
Yeah, because it was the color that her mom saw.
Mm-hmm.
Gray. I think for me, it was just all the rest of the names in the book were not complicated, but they were different, and I've never heard them before. Yeah. So her name just didn't stick, whereas everybody else's did.
That's fair.
So, who was your favorite character?
That's difficult. I don't know. I really liked Gray personally, but she also pissed me off at different points. Well, I shouldn't. Yeah, she pissed me off. She kind of confused me too at different points. But okay. I liked Evie, but it was just because I kind of was on track to her having voices in her head, you know? I was figuring out why she was hanging up the chimes and everything. So
that didn't play out very good for you, did it?
No, it
didn't. Sweet and Low was my favorite character.
His name is so cute. I
was like, yep, the dog. That is for sure favorite character. The old geriatric. Man, yes, I was down for that.
He was great. I liked how he was kind of there at the end of everything that she did. Like, he was always mentioned.
Yes, yes, yes. But she comes downstairs. He comes out of the room. Like, what are you doing? And then he's like, "Oh, actually, I don't care."
I don't care.
It's valid. It's valid. I think the setting for this book was fucking phenomenal. The Louisiana.
And the way that she details it through the entire book
Yes.
is so spot on. And it makes you really feel like you're there. I've adored it.
Yeah, I loved every second of it, and even the way she writes out the Cajun accent, I could hear it in my head while I was reading. And I for some reason have one of those southern accents that doesn't make any sense, so I cover it up all the time. And I was like, I could hear it, I could feel it in the way I read. It was awesome. She did a phenomenal job.
She really did. I loved it. And even in the way that she described, like, oh, of course, now I'm trying to think of them and I can't. The cottonmouths, the water moccasins, and the gators. I really liked how she brought all of that into it.
Right. Willie Nelson. I thought that was so clever. Everything was so well. I couldn't believe that this book was rated 3.9 stars when I saw the reviews. Couldn't believe it.
And I wonder if that's, the young adult generation that's really rating it that way, if it's people that are a little closer to our age. I'm curious about that because I don't know. This is probably the first book that we've read that I have loved the entire thing. So
you did scare me when you sent me that video that was like, I fucking hate you. I fucking hated this book. And I was like, and then you were like, no, it was really good. Because you couldn't guess the ending. So I was like, bitch, it was so good. What do you mean?
So good. I loved it. I just couldn't believe that I was wrong.
Fair. That's what my favorite part about it is, though, is like every single time I was like, it's this, like, I was down. I was like, it's Case for sure. And then it wasn't Case. And then I was like, and then I did the same thing. I was like, well, then it's got to be Hart because it's not going to be Zale. That's too easy.
See, I felt kind of funky about Zale because we have that scene where she talks about him. She like walks out of the shed or something and sees him. Oh, are we back?
I didn't know you disappeared. I heard you.
You disappeared.
Oh, it was me. Okay.
But we have that scene where she walks out of the shed and sees him and talks about him pulling down the lightning, essentially, and then it's not talked about again. And he does talk about his power, but that specific instance is never talked about again, and that really bothered me. Because I was like, what the fuck? Like, and that's when I thought that he had a sibling, and we'll get to that later, but that part kind of confused me, but it was another reason as to why I kind of agree with you. I thought it was a little too easy for it to be him, but I thought maybe there's somebody else related to him, or maybe it was his dad and she was confused. He's still around. But I genuinely thought it was Hart the entire damn time.
Oh, yeah, no, I flip-flopped. I was like, it's Case. No, it's Hart. There was one point when I was like, maybe it's one of the other friends. Like, one of the other summer children.
I felt like the twins were a little odd to me, but there was just something about the way that Hart talked about her. It was not the way that he talked about her was not the way that a brother would talk about a sister.
Well, that tracks.
And yeah.
We find out that they were in love with one another, which I don't know, that I was like, that is absolutely bizarre.
I was really baffled by that. It was not at all. Again, she got me good with that one. I was not expecting it. came out of the blue.
Yeah, no, I felt that. I was like, oh, and then I was like, wait, aren't they step siblings? And then I was like, oh, they are. Okay, not into that, but sure.
The other thing, which I kind of get why she still stayed with Case, but it's also odd to me. Like, I mean, they weren't shy about mentioning sex lives in the book, so I'm sure that she and Hart were banging, which is bizarre to say. But then she's going out with Case and just like doing whatever she wants, I don't know.
I don't see. I don't know if they were banging or if they just fell in love and they were like waiting until they left La Cachette. La Cachette?
That's how I was pronouncing
Yeah,
it.
La
Yeah.
Cachette. I had to think about how it was spelled. And so I was like, it had to have to be maybe they're waiting until they leave. But
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. I just feel like with the way Hart acted, so distraught to the point of like losing weight and all of that, that he had, like, he would not have let her bang another dude.
Yeah.
But then again, he kissed Gray.
See, and that's what was really throwing me the entire time. Like when we found out about that, I was like, why the fuck have you been macking on Gray all summer then?
And
Like,
you're so depressed about your sister lover that you, but then you're gonna make out with her best friend. Yeah, no, I couldn't. I was like, I'm so, again, this is why I love the book though, because I was so confused. It worked out, and I was meant to be. So
I mean, the scene on the boat when he like sticks his hand up her shirt. I mean, he ejaculates on her.
yep. For young adult, we got really rated
we
R.
we did. I was actually pretty surprised, honestly. Like, I was ready for what she said at the beginning when they just kind of hinted around it, but then we got to that, and I was like, "Oh, we're taking things a step further." Okay.
For me, I was like, I didn't know you could do that as a young adult. Okay, hey, I am not offended by it. I don't really care. I just was kind of surprised.
Another thing to kind of go along with that is, which this is jumping to the end a bit, but Hart gets so upset at Gray in the end, like petty almost, with the way that he's saying to her, "Oh, well, your boyfriend, well, your new boyfriend," and he says it a couple times, and it's like, dude,
You fell in love with him. Why do you care? You
why
don't
do you
love
give
her.
a shit? You love somebody that you shoved in a box. That's your problem.
So going off topic a little bit, not really, it's still on the book, but just away from the characters. How did you feel about their psychic powers? We kind of hinted, we talked about it a little bit when we were texting, but
I thought they were really cool, honestly. I enjoyed pretty much all of them. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Gray's or understood a little bit more of what hers was, because I know that, I mean, we get told it's clairvoyance at one point, but then she goes out to Killer's Island,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of forces that like physical vision to happen where she puts herself in that place with
So
by
she can
holding
see.
by holding those hummingbirds. And so I feel like clairvoyance maybe wasn't just all that she had, it was something else as well, but we didn't get to see much of that.
I think that that's almost on purpose though, because she doesn't want to be psychic. She doesn't want her mom's powers. She's like no, I don't have any powers. I don't have any powers. I don't have any powers, even
That's
though
true.
it's so clear she does.
True.
So that could be part of it. I would have loved to explored Case's power, the bilocation, a little more. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. That was freaking me out a little bit. It was
when,
cool.
when Rin was like, "No, Case is out frog fishing with Daddy."
Yeah,
I
I
was
was like,
"What?"
well, and then learning towards the end that she kind of has, since she had the blood, she has
A little bit of
a
that
little bit
too.
of the power too, which was really cool. I liked Rin's character a lot. She was probably one of my favorites in the book. I kept picturing her little voice saying Rougarou.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I was doing the same thing. I was like almost like Penny voice, but a little bit older,
Mhm.
you know? And
Yep.
I was like, oh my gosh, she's adorable.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and to live in such a shitty town.
I know, but also I don't know that I kind of relate to Gray in that sense because I used to go out to Arizona constantly to visit my dad and that side of my family. And that to me was home. And I never lived there. I never really grew up there, but that was where I spent my summers. That's where I spent home. So I understand where Gray kind of felt that in that aspect of things, but I don't know. I thought they did a really good job of describing the town, so it didn't sound all that shitty to me. But until we learned about all
So we
this
learned about all the shitty
dirt,
things they did.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, no, I get that. I didn't spend my summers in Arizona. I actually spent my summers away from Arizona. We switched. We switched.
uh-huh.
I spent my summers here in Utah, and that was where I was like, this is where I belong, you know. And look, here I am. I never left. But yeah, I thought that they did a really good job of describing. I just thought just the Louisiana feel, the Mississippi, the brown water, the
Mhm.
animal or the creatures at night. Like it was like I could have been there. Like I was.
Yep.
I stayed up till almost 2 a.m. to finish this book because again I read cover to cover, and I was in the living room by myself in the dark, not the dark, but the dark, and I was like, "Damn, I am there!" Like it was
Yeah.
so well done.
I I don't know. There was some next level about the detail in this book, in my opinion. She just went above and beyond with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole book takes place over what 3 months, if that,
Mm-hmm.
but it is so well done.
Yeah. I had a question to ask you about Rin, but I don't have it written down and I don't remember what it was, so we're gonna skip it for now.
Okay. Um, what did you feel about the whole Dempsey Fontenay story?
I loved the whole rhyme that they came up with for
Right?
the poem. I thought that that was so much fun. That's something, it reminded me a lot of like playing Bloody Mary in the bathroom when I was growing up. Uh, so I loved that part of it. I didn't love how Dempsey's story ended.
Valid.
That was sad. And I also didn't fully understand it. I don't know why he got put in a bucket of all places. Was it just to cover it
I
up or to
Yeah,
hide it?
I think they were just covering it up, but I feel like you could have just dumped him in the Mississippi and been fine.
Yeah. And that was another thing. It had been what, 13 summers since the twins were murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and since Zale's twin was murdered. And I find it a little odd that through all the storms, somehow Zale's brother's Aaron's body was not washed away or covered or disturbed in any way.
Well, they buried him under the tree.
Yeah. But 13 years and living where they were living with all the storms that they had. That was my thought process with it. I mean, I know that they said higher ground over there, but still with the pond in the back and everything, that's how I was picturing it, was everything washing away in the floods.
Yeah, but I guess if you they put people in concrete crypts down there so that way they don't get float away when it floods. So I guess that's valid. For me, I figured that is higher ground, and two, he was like buried under the tree 13 years ago because they killed Dempsey, and her mom, Gray's mom, went and buried Aaron under the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that, but valid. You're not wrong. Now that I think about it, because they don't really, they put, yeah. That's why a lot of grave sites in New Orleans are like concrete above ground because it floods and they don't want bodies flooding away.
Well, and that's kind of how I was thinking through the entire book. I was like, we're never going to find Alora's body because it's rained so many times. There's no way that it hasn't washed away or it hasn't been eaten at this point by God knows what in the bayou, you know? So
For sure. Yeah, I didn't think they were going to find her body either, but when she's stuffed in a box and shoved at the bottom of a pond, that might have something to do with it.
which shocked the hell out of me, by the way. I mean, I kind of figured that the box had something to do with all of it, but I wasn't expecting her to be placed where she was.
No, me either.
To know that she was that close by that entire time.
I think that's what bothered me almost the most about Hart was that he was almost banging freaking Gray in the boat right above her body. And he knew it was there.
I don't think that he was psychologically sound.
Well, definitely not.
At all. But man had major issues.
They all had major issues. I think the twins and Mackie were the most normal ones.
Which is interesting because one of the twins doesn't even speak.
Yeah.
He just draws.
Yeah, completely nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
Gay, but nonverbal, which I also thought was so funny. That they had to put that in there. Because they were like, what if he's the secret lover? And he... No.
No, I love that they make Gray feel all embarrassed about it too. Like, how did you not know this?
Right. The kid doesn't speak, and she's only there 3 months out of the year. But how did you not know?
Yep. I am curious to know. So I genuinely thought that there was going to be. I thought somebody would be an actual Rougarou.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, it kind of gets described that Hart has glowing eyes and is acting animalistic. So do we feel like that's just an extension of his power? Does he transform in a sense? Like his face or maybe his eyes change when he's...
I don't know, maybe it was heightened emotions, but Rin saw it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared Rin so much she wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, that and the myth that if you talked about it, then they would come get you.
Right.
But, I don't know. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, so he is a Rougarou. And then it was like, no, he's not. Like, it kind of goes through.
Yeah.
And in reality, he's just fucked up. But maybe it was just the lightning catching on his eyes weird or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I thought it was funny that Rin said that the Rougarou was too dumb to count above 10.
Yeah.
And then we found out that she was talking about Hart this whole time.
Yep. Well, and they even make a point to say that he walks over all of Rin's little trinkets and toys and things. Just doesn't even give him a second glance.
Right. Oh,
which just goes along with the Louisiana lore, I feel like. It's part of the fun.
For sure. But Rin knew who it was. Like, she knew it was Hart, and then she was like, he's too dumb to count above 10. And I was like, who the fuck is it? Like, it really threw me for a loop because I was like, who would it be that's too stupid to count above 10?
Mm-hmm.
But none of the characters that we had met were that dumb. But I guess Hart didn't go to really finish school. He was homeschooled, but we don't know much about his homeschool life.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too that there's not really another point in the book where we see Rin and Hart in the same room together. Rin kind of shows up after the fight, but I think Hart's already gone at that point in time.
Mhm.
So we don't see her afraid
With
of
Rin.
him until the end. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's probably avoiding him.
Right.
But I thought that was crazy. I thought that I love how they play Evie off the whole time as this like little girl. Like
Mhm.
even though she's the same age as them, she's the youngest, but she's the
Yep.
same age as them.
They depict her as a child.
Yeah, they depict her as
Mhm.
a child the whole time. And they even treat her like a child the whole time.
Mhm.
And I think that's why I was so thrown for a loop because they're like, "Oh, she's got a childhood crush on Hart. Oh, she's so," and I'm thinking like 7, 8-year-old like in my head, but then
Right.
she's not. She's 16.
Well, and it tracked that, he would go out of his way to help her with the abuse, and that would correlate some kind of feeling. I can see that for a little kid or even
Mm-hmm.
an early teenager, but it wasn't something that you would really expect, I don't feel like, of somebody her age, which kind of threw me off.
We don't necessarily know when Hart stops the abuse, though, right?
That's true.
We just
Yeah.
know that he did at some
Mhm.
point. But this is the first summer that she's seen as acting the way she is.
Right.
Around Hart. But could have been wrong. Could have been years ago that he saved her, and now she's developing that crush.
Mhm.
She might have had it for years and they didn't know.
True. I
So
don't know. I think it's interesting that everybody kind of knows what one another's psychic ability is, and yet she hangs over 50 wind chime sets and nobody says a damn thing to her about it.
right? The only
Like,
mention we get about it is, don't they keep you up at night? She's like, actually,
yeah,
they help me sleep. And I was like, what is up with this kid in the wind chimes? What
I
is
kind
she
of
trying to keep out? Like it was driving me crazy.
I figured it was voices, but I don't know. I didn't expect it to just be Alora. I assumed it was so loud because it was, more than one voice trying to talk at once. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. That whole thing, that was wild to me. She doesn't act like she wants to kill Gray at first when she originally goes up to her and is like, "You're going to take him away too. You lied to me." She's not being aggressive towards her then. She's just sad, distraught, kind of.
Right. And yeah, I didn't expect it one bit. I mean, she hid in the dryer when the
Yeah.
hurricane came, and then we see Hart almost strangling her, which I thought was like I couldn't really. I mean, I was like, why would he be killing her? And then I was like, oh well, because he's the Ruguru that killed Alara.
Right.
And then that just all that whole end scene, I was just blown away. I also every tidbit of her visions we haven't gotten it. So she had visions the whole book. Not even just visions, because she literally threw up bayou water in her bathroom.
Yeah, she almost drowned from it.
Yeah, in her bathroom from a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And she was thinking it was Alara the whole time. And it wasn't, it was herself. I was like, bruh. That first scene. And then it was word for word. It was so beautifully done.
Truly. It really, really was. I loved the twin flame connection throughout the entirety of it. It really, I don't know, every single thing in this book went hand in hand together. It all played really well together. We got a witchcraft story in the middle of Louisiana where, I don't know, I loved every second of it.
Yeah, no, it was just so well done. Just utterly well done. Like I loved, I never expected the visions to be of her own death. I totally was like, she was
No.
like, I feel Alara's fear. And I was like, tracks. Makes sense. And then she's like, well, I think Alara's dead. And I was like, well, then why are you feeling her fear?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But then it answers it because she wasn't feeling her fear. She was
Right.
feeling her own. I really loved Zale as a character. I thought
I
that
loved him too.
I
No.
yeah, I also was like, I totally understand why people would be scared of his father. If they could control the weather to the point where they were, I could totally see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be scared of what you don't understand. But I also was kind of like, this is a town full of people who have some form of ability. But I guess he was just too powerful.
I guess, I mean, but Gray's mom being able to start fires with her mind, that's pretty intense as well. I mean, I guess it's maybe not to the level of weather. I don't know.
Maybe nobody was really scared of her because she
Maybe
came
not.
into her power so late, and then she killed herself. So
I guess she didn't really talk about it much either, from what Gray says.
right.
Which also, I really enjoy Honey's character, but she is so damn vague through the entire book. It drives me insane. How are you not going to talk about your child that killed herself? That to the daughter that you're taking in every summer. That, no.
I get it if it's painful, but I feel like she knew why her daughter killed herself. She knew that her daughter killed herself because
Yeah,
she killed
this
that boy
didn't
by
feel
mistake.
like pain. This felt like just purely hiding
Cover
it
up,
because yeah.
covering it up. I mean, and I think that's why Alara wanted Gray to not come back, is because the town was just one big cover up for the Dempsey Fontenay shit and Emberly and Orly, and the fact that Leo was allowed to be alive as long as he was, like, that
That's true.
pissed me off too. I was like, the twins drowning ended up being the fact that Hart's dad made him carry the girls to the pond. My heart hurt. I was like, well, no wonder he's done everything he's done.
Yeah, it was really hard to not understand why he had psychological problems at that point. I still didn't understand really. I mean, I know he was terrified. I know that we get told that as well. You know, he doesn't say anything because his dad tells him he'll do the same thing to him or something like that.
And any 4-year-old is going to be like, oh, shit.
Right. But he never mentions it to anybody.
Nope, he just lives with it. Even though his best friend is terrified of Dempsey Fontenay, who's not even alive.
Mm-hmm.
His best friend's terrified of him, and he doesn't say a word. Like, you don't have to worry about it. It's fine.
Nope. I found that was really sad, but I also found it to be odd.
Dumb. That whole situation was sad and odd. And I feel like I guess the rest of the town didn't know, but I feel like if Ember and Orly died the way they did, they burned down his home and kill his son, and Dempsey Fontenay comes back. That whole scene of like him on the dock holding the baby,
screaming
with the storm. I was like, my heart. I not only could I visualize it like perfectly because because she did such a good job describing it, but I was like, holy crap! I can only imagine his pain. I can only I'm there, you know. And then Leo shoots it. Did not anybody think in the entire town why he was so quick to like pull the trigger? I mean, like, his son just died. Of course, he's gonna come after the town and be all pissy that his son just died.
Well, and this man that you all assumed that he was just some crazy person living out there, you now found out he had a wife and a child. You killed said child. And somehow he's still depicted as a crazy person. It's wild. And you're
then
right. In a town full of people like that, it's
and the whole town covers up Dempsey's death. Like, it's not like
Mhm.
literally the whole town knew it happened and they covered it up. And that to me is just like, all right, you probably should have looked into Emperor and Orly's death just a little bit harder.
Mhm.
But I guess Leo didn't kill any other kids, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I am curious as to why Zale didn't stay with Alora the night that she died. I know that she says she's waiting for somebody, and that's kind of the reasoning behind it, but I don't know. I feel like
I don't know why Alora didn't tell him more.
or that. Yeah.
For Zale saying about how close of friends they were. I mean, he did say they didn't really talk. That he
Mhm.
just pulled her out of the river every day, which I also was like, what?
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting. When he was saying that they were saving each other, I thought it was going to be, there's going to be something symbolic. Like, what's the word? It doesn't matter. It's gone. It's not.
Gotta love the brain fog. I almost said frog.
Because you're thinking about the bayou and the frog gig.
Sure, yeah, that's why it almost. Anyway, no, I get what you're saying, but I also wasn't expecting that to be how they were saving each other. But I couldn't believe that she didn't tell him more. It was like for somebody. I mean, they had to have talked because he knew about Gray. So why wouldn't she? Because she knew all of it. She knew everything. He was there to figure out what happened to his dad, and she knew and just didn't tell him. Maybe because she was in love with Hart, I guess. Again, weird. I'm just gonna
And
make sure everybody knows
yeah,
and you know that's weird.
weird. But also, I don't know. It's because it's never really mentioned as to why she didn't say anything. But I feel like loving Hart isn't a good enough excuse. I mean, it's not his fault that
No, he didn't.
Dempsey's dead. That you can leave out the part about the children, and Hart playing a part in it. But
Even that's not his fault.
it's not
He
his
was 4
fault.
years old.
Yeah.
None of it was his fault. And then his mom killed his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hart got the short end of the fucking stick for sure.
Oh yeah.
But like none of it was his fault. So why Alara was covering for him so much when he didn't do anything wrong? He was simply a child. Doesn't make sense to me. Maybe because Hart didn't want him to know, but Hart didn't know he existed. Wow.
I also found it extremely bizarre. I mean, Hart blamed everybody, and he was so quick to blame everybody. There was no taking a step back and looking at things and getting perspective on everything, or it was just boom. If there's something pointing to you, I am going to go at you. And that kind of bothered me about him. Because I understand being so distraught that you just want to blame everybody because you don't know what happened to your loved one. But at the same time,
Right.
there's just things missing I don't know.
For me, somebody killed her. Why would you stuff her in a trunk and then throw it in the water? Why wouldn't you let them investigate into who killed her?
Yeah, he's so nervous about them thinking that he had something to do with it because nobody's going to believe him that they met up and then he left and wasn't the one to kill her. Well, why not just leave that part out? I know that that's not
Nobody
all
knew.
that
Yeah.
truthful, but nobody would have known that.
Yeah. Nobody would have known that he saw her before that. Nobody knew that he was seeing her. So,
No.
like,
We were all playing hide and go seek. She didn't come back.
Yep. As simple as that.
Yeah.
But to stuff her in a trunk and then throw it in the water. Also, they allude to the fact that she drowned.
Mhm. She
He
wasn't
killed
dead.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't dead. And he was like, no, she was dead. But Mackie said it was a water death. That was horrible. I was like, dude really got the short end of every fucking stick there was.
I think that's probably part of why Evie says that people lie, even the dead lie. And I feel like it's probably because Hart lies about being the one to not have killed her, even though he did. I mean, granted, he didn't fully know, but there's that. And then there was another thing that they mentioned in the book as well. And it's blanking from my brain at the moment.
Well, I think that Alara was probably accusing Hart or telling Evie that Hart killed her. But Evie knew that she had done all the damage. So she's like, the dead lie. I don't know why the dead tell so many lies. But Alara was also accusing her of killing her too. We don't know because we don't hear Alara. We just hear that Evie can hear Alara.
Mm-hmm. It's so vague.
Which really adds to the
It does.
Scary. It's hard when you're sitting here breaking down the book because
Mhm.
we're here breaking down the book and we're like, I don't understand this. But in the moment, it makes it so good. Like, we're not trashing this book in any way, shape, or form. The whole book was really good.
I loved this book. I have got so many quotes in here marked that I loved, so many sections. I mean, there were sections that I related to.
Mm-hmm. I did really good at annotating the first half of the book when I wasn't just in it, and then I got so into it that I didn't. So the whole back half of the book's not annotated.
I do the same thing. I also ran out. So that last chunk of my book, there's like 2 or 3 little things in there, and then I ended up just writing in it and decided to flip through it when I was taking notes.
That's funny. I know you ordered an annotating kit today. My
Mhm.
plan is to order one soonish when I can. But yeah, this book was so good though.
I am curious if there's any symbolism to there only being 6 of the 12 summer children left.
Ooh. Should we look up what
Yes.
the number 6 means in the number theory?
I'm curious because she talks about 10 being complete and then 11 being the imbalance and then 12 really being the completion of a full circle. So I'm curious if there's any symbolism to there only being 6 kids left. I also think it's freaking weird that they go out of their way to mention how many times this town has gone underwater and the houses have been swept away in a flood and they've rebuilt. And then all of a sudden, after Hart and Evie's death, they don't rebuild. At least it doesn't sound like that.
No, they let it. It's underwater. It never comes back.
Like, I don't know. I just found that a little bit odd. They didn't try. Maybe they did, and it was just so completely underwater. There's nothing they could do. But I thought it was weird. Why not just let it sink and go down the river before that? Why keep coming back and rebuilding if it's such a shitty town like you all claim it to be?
That's fair. Number 6 in numerology. There we go. Is often associated with love, nurturing, balance, and harmony.
Oh.
So you're right. It probably does. So we had 12 being the full, all of them. And then now 6 have died and they're harmonious now.
Yep. And I wonder.
That's clever.
That is. I'm also curious what Zale is doing with his life afterwards. I know he's with Gray, but we hear what she's doing. We know she's going to school. I'm curious what he is doing.
I thought she wasn't going to school. I thought she was just doing the shop with her grandma.
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Okay. I was like,
you're right.
I could be wrong, but I think she never even went back to Alabama or Arkansas, whichever one she was from.
No, you're right, but I could have sworn she was taking classes or something. I could be wrong.
She could have been. She could have been.
It was in the epilogue, I know that. I'm
trying
curious
to-
if he's just doing that with them or.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that they got their happy ending.
Me
Because
too.
the whole time, anytime they were together and he was like comforting to her, which I know was part of his psychic abilities, but just every time I was like, it was like kicking my feet. I was like, like the.
I liked
Yes.
hearing about the little zings, the
Yes.
electricity that she could feel through her skin.
Yes, I did too. It was
Mhm.
just so well done.
It really was.
I'm gonna say about 300 million more times.
This was definitely so far. This is my favorite.
If you're listening to this episode wondering if it's worth reading, yes.
Yes,
We probably should have started out that way rather than waited till the end, but absolutely worth reading.
absolutely. I would read it again.
I probably will. I
Yeah,
probably will. It'll
more
be
than
a while
likely.
because we have so much going on. But
Yeah.
you want to introduce the next book because it's definitely your book. You picked, and is what I mean.
Okay, I was gonna say it's that one, right? I've confused the numbers so many times today. I gotta make sure I'm announcing the correct book.
Yes, that one. The one that you keep thinking is episode 6, but it's not. It's episode 7.
All right. Well, next we are going to be reading The Silent Patient. If you'll bear with me for a second here, I will tell you the name of the author, which I should have already known before this. It is Alex Michaelides. I'm going to butcher that, but
Don't ever judge us for our ability to say names because
no.
we're trying our best, but our brains only half function.
If you can't find it, it'll be on our Instagram, TikTok, our Facebook, and more than likely our website as well. So
It definitely will be on the website.
you'll be
when we
able
get
to
there.
find it.
Yes. If you're enjoying listening to the podcast, please like and subscribe. It helps us a ton. Leave us a review. We'd love that. We'd love to hear from you guys, our listeners.
Always, any questions you guys have, we're happy to answer. But thank you for joining us.
Yes, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. I was gonna say Tuesday night, but I don't know when you're listening. I don't know.
Have a great rest of whatever time it is for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Monday night for us.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. All right. Have a good one.
See you, everybody.